where he thank you so much. I thank you so much. Um, that must be Carlene, where he attended the University of the West Indies and earned his bachelor's degree and his master's degree in tourism management. While completing his master's degree, Senator Crawford served as president of the University Guild of Students. Mr. Crawford, an attorney also, was elected a member of parliament representing St. Andrews East Rural in December 2011. He concurrently served as Jamaica's Minister of State in the Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment. He spent much time conducting classes in his constituency, teaching his constituents how to do math in a different way. The senator was previously named vice president and of the People's National Party, along with Michael Phillips, Philip Paulwell, a post that he later gave up. Mr. Crawford is currently serving as senator in the upper house, that house that we call the Senate of Jamaica, since September 2020. The senator puts his money where his mouth is. He owns Crafton Holdings, and for some of these guys who sit in the agriculture task force, he trades liquid eggs, and he delivers this to some of the largest companies across Jamaica, including the hotel sector and the banking sector. He delivered to the bakery company called Tortuga, the Jamaica Biscuit Company, Sandals Resort and Hotels, and also to Hilton Rosal. Crafton Holdings also owns a high-tech goat farm, and if you know Senator Crawford's story, you would know about the goat thing that he introduced a few years ago, and he's made it into a very very successful business. Incidentally, he operates the goat farm in St. Mary, which happens to be the best parish in Jamaica. Audley Shaw, then Minister of Agriculture, said that his farm served as a blueprint for the Ministry of Agriculture's plans for the ruminant sector. Senator Crawford is never at a loss for words. He's noted as one of the finest, most passionate speakers in Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Senator Damian Crawford. We can't clap. We will see. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Good night, everyone. Thanks for having me.
We can hear you clearly. Oh, we're not hearing you now.
He's muted.
Oh, he's muted.
I was just passing on my greetings and thanking you for having me and giving me the opportunity to just interact with you guys. I'm not sure what the procedure is. I would assume we start with questions, and then I will offer my best response to those questions.
No, we expected that you're going to make a statement and then we will ask the questions after.
Well, the statement might be so general, but all right. What we are and where we are now is in a world that basically we have proven the interdependence of human beings. They claim that one lady ate a bat in China, and the next thing you know, the entire world is in the pangs of COVID-19 and the fallout that has created. Two countries decide to fight, Russia and Ukraine. And you see, where recently India decided not to export any more wheat based on the wheat shortage created by that fight between Russia and Ukraine. And they have also seen an exponential increase in the cost of meat based on the shortage of soy and corn, which we have recently learned is a major output of that area. Ukraine and Russia. And the oil prices have also increased because of that negative interface between two countries. We have experience here in Jamaica where shipping has almost come to a standstill. And by extension, the cost of shipping has moved from $2,000 per container to over $7,000 per container. And the impact that is having on housing prices, on food costs, etc. There's one company, CariMed, that is building some units, and their budget moved from $1.7 billion to $4.5 billion. The major reason being the cost of materials coming out of COVID. So all of that is proving, firstly, that there is a global reality, but also that human beings are dependent on each other, and that interdependence has created even more of a reason that a individual should try to equally become independent. The diaspora would have been getting information from two sides of the coin, wherever you are, Canada, the United States, England, etc., but also from third-party reports and following the news of what is happening in our own country, in Jamaica. And you would have recognized that the difficulty being faced by the people are being exaggerated, and also the difficulty that was being faced by the people is being uncovered. So what was always a education apartheid in Jamaica, where some schools are likely to perform well, and from the age of 12, we basically decide if you're going to be a hustler or a doctor. And so if you pass common entrance where KC, a JC, a Wolmer's, Queens, and Immaculate, your likelihood of success is exponentially increased, as if you pass or quote unquote pass for a Tarrant, a Donald Quarry, Haile Selassie. Your likelihood of success is exponentially decreased. An actual example, in 2 years ago for the school report, they showed that KC had an 85% chance of 5 subjects, St. George's 87% chance, Alpha 94% chance, but right across the road, Holy Trinity had a 2% chance, right 5 minutes away from all the schools that I've just quoted of getting 5 subjects. And that has caused for the opportunities available to many of our Jamaicans to be quite limited, partially because machines have replaced human beings. And so Jamaica, which in my time, 1980 coming up, we were a muscle country, depending on muscle labor for mixing cement, for chopping cane, for chopping banana, and for loading trucks, etc. But as machines replace muscle, the opportunities for muscle has dramatically reduced. Some people would know what number of Jamaicans used to go on farm work before machines start to replace them. But a man that used to mix cement to do a roof 50, 60 of them now is one premix truck and 2 people. And when 50 man clear piece of land is now 2 man with a weed whacker. And so the opportunities, women used to go wash clothes, and now you have a washing machine. In fact, I've seen on the internet a thing called iRobot that you turn it on in the night and it clean your house. When you wake up tomorrow, your house well clean. And so all of those opportunities have been removed. And so those who are less educated, those who are less informed, those who depend on muscle work have now been left without real opportunities. We have also seen where our young people have become so angry that they've moved away from just crime to just heinous crimes. Like they try to make a statement to the society that unless you are surprised by what we do, we're not satisfied by just doing it. The diaspora has suffered from that, but just recently a woman came down to bury her mother or son or whatever, and she was killed at the funeral. So faced with all of that, some of us blessed with the opportunity to make policy now must find answers as to what are the combinations of ideas that we can put together and solve some of the problems that we have, or at least ebb some of the negatives that we're experiencing, and also to exaggerate some of the positives that we are experiencing. And it's therefore the reason why I always take the opportunity to speak to the diaspora, because they would have had other experiences that I might not have been exposed to, of possible answers to some of these problems that we face and some of these negatives that we are now enduring. I'll give you one example of just overseas experience. I went to South Korea, and in their busiest areas, their pedestrian crossing is underground. I never thought of it, but when I saw it, I was in awe of why we have never thought about that. So you go underground, come over the other side and walk to where you're going. You're not interfacing with the traffic, you're not at risk of being licked down, etc., etc. And if we could get the amalgamated experience of all our diaspora that have been all over the world and in all different circumstances, maybe we will easier find some of the answers. And so when I was invited, I quickly accepted because I'm very interested in understanding what are your concerns for the society, what are your suggestions for the solutions, and how my experience can interface with your proposals and your concerns so that we can move a little step further and that I can influence policy in a better way. So I thank you once again for that opportunity.
Well, short and spicy. I really like that. It's a nice overview, and the comparisons are great. Uh, you mentioned something about underreported and overstated in terms of the realities of the people. Uh, I hope I'm understanding this correctly when you say that you're saying that these problems that we are seeing here from the diaspora perspective are problems that have been there for a long time, but just because of social media, they're popping up. What is that? What you meant?
Well, not just social media, as I said, COVID have only revealed to us what the realities were. With COVID and schools being closed, we now recognize how many people don't have access to the internet. Now, it might have been of dire need during COVID, but it wasn't unnecessary before COVID. If you're going to gain knowledge, the fruit or the basis of knowledge, the seed of knowledge is information. And the internet is the greatest source of information. So while it is that they were getting no school because of the lack of internet, they clearly were being underrepresented and underperforming without access to the internet before COVID. COVID now has opened our eyes to that. COVID has showed how many people are living paycheck to paycheck without the ability to have a savings. So as soon as some people were incapable to earn, within a week they were suffering. Well, most of us would say we want to have a 6 month salary save up or we want to have a 4 month salary save up. COVID showed how many Jamaicans were basically borrowing in between paychecks and paying their paychecks. They were like always a paycheck behind. So when they got laid off, it was showing what were some of those realities. So a lot of things that existed before COVID was only highlighted because of COVID. But those circumstances, even our general dependence on tourism, um, COVID highlighted that and what that meant. So what we are seeing now is what some of us tried to hide from, but was forced to face once the sheet was removed as a cover. So that's what's happening. Not just the internet, but the reality that we were forced to engage because of what happened in the last 2 years.
We have an agreement here. Sharika, Dr. Dacre says COVID has highlighted the inequities. I don't see it anymore. I'm sorry. Sorry, I lost that. What are some of the measures government has put in place to counter? Damien, Senator. Not,
Unmute.
oh, there you are now. Chris, I'm coming to you next, but I can't hear you, Senator.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was saying that I must first of all establish that even some unrecognized bias exists because I am a supporter of the political party in the opposition. So some of my arguments must be taken with the knowledge that there may be bias, even though it's not intentional bias at this particular point in time.
Yes.
Um, there has been a COVID relief activity about 2 years ago. This was in September of 2020 or October of 2020. That has been the most significant. Since then, the government has been satisfied to do what they call food packages. That is something that don't rest well with me because there should be no human that decides for another human what they should eat unless they're incapable to go and make those choices. I mean, only pets get exactly what I give them to eat. So if you're giving a $2,000 package, I am a person who prefers if I give a $2,000 voucher, because what if the person don't want sardine that you choose to buy or flour that you choose to buy? Or what if they have access to protein and would prefer to use the money to buy starch, or access to starch and would prefer to use the money to buy protein? And so we have established it to be okay within our society to give a gift of food and then take a picture of it and put on the internet. So there have been some minimal immaterial efforts to do food packages. And I say immaterial because when you look at the lump sum, like for example, each MP gets $2 million for food packages, averaging $5,000 per person. When you look at that, you can see that it can't really satisfy enough persons. We have 500,000 people living below the poverty line, which is supposedly now $310 a day. So if we have 500,000 people living below the poverty line, and you give enough food packages to satisfy at maximum 2,000 or 3,000 people, that is an immaterial um, effort. So they have done that. In the original package as well, there was a hotel directed salary remuneration kind of package for $40,000 that was also given. So that was the main thing. Also, they have tried to give students calling it laptops, but that's not the proper term for what they've been giving out. Um, what's it called? iPads, or they've been
Devices,
giving
devices, devices.
right. They've been trying to give students devices. However, that has not curbed learning loss satisfactorily for one reason. A device is only one of five things necessary for learning: access through the device. But then you need internet, which many don't have. Then you need a environment for learning, which many don't have because the parent might not be present. Then you need reasonable supervision, which many don't have because the parent is semi-literate or illiterate. And so even those with the devices have not even been showing up in many cases to school. One of the things is government, and when I say government, when we were in power, whoever is in power, the United States, England, everywhere, government worst accusation is that they do nothing. So many times government just do something even when they themselves know is not enough, because the worst accusation is you did nothing. So while there has been evidence of something, in my personal opinion, it has not been properly directed, properly funded, nor satisfactory, due to the continued commitment to achieve some fiscal rules or fiscal goals that have been set within the society.
Thank you. Christopher.
Leo.
Christopher?
Hello.
Yes, you have the floor.
All right.
Ask.
Thanks, Leo. Just let me just probably ask two questions, then I'll mute my mic again. So I think Senator Crawford mentioned that MPs are receiving funds to help to alleviate some of the needs within the communities. I know I thought that was a thing of the past, but is there a proper, effective social program in place where persons who are, food insecure, the most vulnerable, that they can access some of these resources without depending on an MP? And the second question is, you spoke quite a bit about knowledge, and just a bit concerned in terms of what is being done to develop Jamaica into more of a knowledge economy. Because I'm looking at agriculture, and the University of the West Indies is there. I'm sure they've been doing a lot of research when it comes to agriculture. One of the concerns I have here, because I'm in Toronto, is we have been exporting yellow yams the same way for the past, probably since independence or prior to independence. When those products get to Toronto, it's so expensive on the shelves because the owner of the supermarket has to be maximizing that profit that he can get because of the high possibility of spoilage. So is there any plans to use the research technologies, in Jamaica to help produce and export agriculture produce where it has a longer shelf life?
Okay. Senator.
I'll speak to this. Thank you very much. I keep putting my mic on mute just to ensure I don't interrupt the question. So let me just get it clear. The second question is about what we're doing from a knowledge standpoint, and in particular agriculture. And the first one is if there's any political or government politician independent welfare. Yes, there is independent welfare that exists through PATH program. However, the PATH program would not have been a reasonable response to COVID because there would have been many with income that didn't qualify for PATH that would eventually now be in a circumstance and a situation that they are quote unquote destitute. Research suggested that food insecurity went up over 24%, which means the inability to consume satisfactory nutrients because of COVID. Also, many are paths for the poorest among us. So there are 5 quintiles of income, and part is really for the worst of the 50. So if you have a flush toilet, you often don't qualify. If you have a electric fridge, you don't qualify. If you have a TV, you don't qualify. Part is really for the person who basically struggle to consume day to day, and we give them an average of $35 a day, which again is immaterial. So there is the PATH program, and there's poor relief that a person can basically apply for. But there's nothing like what Canada has employed or what the United States have employed with a stimulus check or anything like that that has happened.
Did you say $35 per day, which is 35 Jamaican dollars a day per family member?
Yes. If I do the mathematics right, it's $2,600 every 2 months. Divide that by 10, you get $200 divided by 6. 6 is 18, so yeah, it's about $35, yeah. But you get it in a lump sum every 2 months, of $2,000 something. Now, again, remember that we have certain constraints because of the large number of persons not within the formal sector, not paying taxes, and also because we have accepted within the Caribbean, but definitely in Jamaica, a conservative approach to welfare. So if you look at how Jamaicans speak, for example, low taxes is promoted by Jamaicans, and low taxes is really a small government and by extension, small welfare situation. I personally have never understood the celebration of no new taxes or low taxes when we have so much things to do. What they want is effective and efficient use of the taxes. But when we have hospitals to fix, when we have no water in communities, when we have high poverty rates, I think those people who are in need should be fighting for higher taxes, more welfare. But we have a conservative approach to government, maybe because we think them thief or whatever, and by extension, a low tax environment. We promote that. That's politically beneficial for a low tax environment. So therefore, we don't have much welfare available to our society. That reality also contributes to the second answer as it relates to agriculture and knowledge and all of that. Now, agriculture, for agriculture serves many purposes, agriculture for particular reasons. One of the reasons for agriculture is agriculture for welfare. That's really the type of agriculture Jamaica in the main participate. You have agriculture for export, you have agriculture for food substitution, you have agriculture for profit, but then you have agriculture for welfare. The United States is a big participant in agriculture for welfare. In many of those um, areas that are less developed, the government will give a check if a man have cows, or give a check if a man have corn, or so you hear a man say, I do it for the government check. So you subsidize their survival by making what they do feasible to do and that they can live off it. So you find that in Jamaica, man have a little small plot of land and them grow enough crops to go to the market or to sell to people who go to the market and sustain himself basically at a minimum level going forward. And the government give him certain tools and him use the land for free because he's allowed to squat on it or him don't have to rent it or lease it. So if him have some goats, him got tie it out, quote unquote, a bush, but he doesn't own that bush. That's subsidized. That's subsidized agriculture. And then he gets cutlass each year and him get seed and him get local fertilizer from the MP. So that is the main type of agriculture that we have done, and we have not tried to create an industry of any other type of agriculture. You have people that have created businesses in other types of agriculture. So like I am doing agriculture now and I'm trying to do it for profit, but we have not created a system for a agriculture for profit industry. Yeah, just have some 1 and 2 man where I try them own a thing. In the same way that we have not created a technology driven coding industry, but they still have some youth, 10 or 15 youth or 30 youth, whatever, doing their own thing. So to that extent, a lot of research and a lot of policy have not been directed towards agriculture for export. And there are some things not direct agriculture related that can create opportunities for agriculture for export. One of them is being done now with expanding the runway in Montego Bay. A man might say, what that have to do with agriculture? If you expand the runway, you can get bigger planes. If you get bigger planes, then you can now do the movement of cargo because you're getting more cargo space. And in getting that more cargo space, we can send the more quickly, more cheaply, because it then shares the cost of the foreigner coming from Toronto as well. So a lot of research has not been done because we have never focused on agriculture for export nor agriculture for profit. We are focused on agriculture for welfare. And so that is just how we bail out the rural communities by giving them something to do.
Here's a good question. It's great answer there, Senator. Here's a good question. What are the recommendations for human development, education, skills in Jamaica?
What are the or what are my recommendations? Because they're
It's
very
yours. It's yours. It's yours.
um well the way if I can just take a minute to set the stage, and please tell me if I'm talking too much
No,
because
man, you're
that
doing good.
okay.
Doing good.
All right. That is the ill that I've been blessed with, right? Who doesn't
Yes.
love talk.
Yes.
But um, in my opinion, the platform that we need to set is an understanding of the three phases of human existence. ultimate stage is interdependence. And then you have dependence and independence in between. So you start with being dependent, you move to being independent, and then you end up at interdependence. This ideology came from a book I read called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. A fellow called Stephen Covey
Yes.
um, wrote it. If you get the opportunity, I would recommend that you read that book. It has really transformed how I think of things. And I read it in 1998, and up to today's day, or 1999, I think. I don't remember, but a long time. Um, so he feels that the ultimate state of human existence in a society, in a community, in a home, in a country, in a relationship is interdependence, which means you can depend on me and I can depend on you. However, in reaching interdependence, a person moves from, like when he is a baby and people have to bathe him and everything, he moves from dependence to independence. And without that achievement of independence, there can be no access to interdependence, because if interdependence means you can depend on I and I can depend on you, then two of us have to in our own self be independent to accept that dependence, because it means that I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It
Yes,
means
we
that
do.
if
Yes, sir.
okay, right. So if you always a borrow and me always a lend, that is a dependent independent. The lender is independent and the borrower is dependent. But if you are independent and I'm independent, then if me buck me to you lend me, and if you buck it to me lend you. So what we need to achieve in our society is firstly to get our people to independence. And that is what I, from my research, feel is the differentiator between youth and adult. The youth is the person that has not yet achieved independence, and the adult is the person that has achieved independence. So what I have proposed to the society is that with our realities, because youth go up to, what youth is now 30. So
Oh,
you're a youth until you're 30, right? So you're a child until you're 18, but you're a youth until you're 30. So enough people in Jamaica in the world kind of conflate youth and child in the same way, right?
okay.
So even recently we were in a debate in the parliament. You have a child diversion bill, which means that if a child do a particular crime, you can then just put him in a diversion program and not necessarily in jail. And I was saying, why not extend it to be a youth diversion bill? And it was made clear of the difference in age. So under 18, you're a child, and then over 18, but still under 30, you're a youth, right? Now, there are some countries, like in some African countries, where they put it to 35. So different countries said what it is. And that is why I came to the conclusion in my mind that it meant that how long would it take your society to make a average individual independent? And by extension, what are the variables that it will take to say this person achieve independence, right? So I feel that one, to achieve independence, you'd have had to basically have access to earning, whether through profit or through income, through wages. I think that you'd have had to have a concept of society, of the total, because other than that, you won't contribute to interdependence. I think that you have to have a root to ownership of a home, which when I say a route, because many might not yet do it, but you can see how you're gonna do it. You can structure out by time 35 or by time 40 or whatever, you're gonna own your home. And you should be financially literate, and you should know how to pay rent. I think so, those are some of the things. And I can share with you, I wrote a document which I can share with you because it will take longer to explain everything. So what are some of the things for human development? I think that we must target 1 degree per household, because that's where we are as a world, is a knowledge world. So if we have a knowledge world and then we have so many households with no knowledge person, then that household must suffer, because them have no knowledge person, them have no real earner in today's world, today's society. Earning is based on knowledge, on the mind. Not necessarily education, but knowledge. But education is proof of knowledge. So therefore, we should try to get 1 degree per household I believe that will transform our society. I think also that we should try to have what we call access to parenting. So that if you don't have children in homes that are wanted in homes, that with people that can be good parents, then you're almost creating a problem within the society, because basically our next what we are in the future is based on what each household do with their children. So when I look back in life where I'm from, I can name all of my friends that I thought had more talent than me now that I look back at it. Because they could have make box truck before me, them could have make kite before me, them could have spin gig before me, but them still begging me $200 now. And the major difference was my mother was committed and my father was committed, and them could have run up and down for the whole day and nobody business. So if we don't have that knowledge training, so um, who teach you how to be a parent in our society? You just learn from your father, like you just learn from what did happen to you. So if you get beat, you beat them. Or there is no lesson on parenting when the majority of our adults are going to be a parent. So I really have been proposing so that parenting should be a part of our secondary education, so that a man can come out and know how to discipline. I didn't know that there are three different forms of behavior modification. One is called punishment, which is negative outcome for negative action. One is called positive reinforcement, and one which is giving something positive for doing something positive. And one is called negative reinforcement, which is the removal of something positive for an action that was negative. So therefore, many of our people only know punishment. They've never been exposed to that. So I think that is also necessary. And to identify earning opportunities. So a person talk about agriculture. Yes. All right. What percent of our society we think is going to make the majority of their income from agriculture? What percentage of our society we think going to make the majority of their income from mining? What percentage of our society is going to make the majority of their income from tourism? What percentage of our society we think is going to make the majority of their income from vending? And then having identified those subcategories, how are we going to organize these activities so that that percentage can earn a satisfactory and reasonable living? So with so many of us dependent on tourism, how can it be allowed to be a low income industry? We have to have a specialized minimum wage for tourism because so many people are dependent on tourism. I used to be in the hotel and see where a man has spent $400 a night, but the person going home with minimum wage, all the people serving him, the profit percentage is so high that almost every single country is trying to come to Jamaica to set up a hotel. Not just because we have sun, enough places have sun. Mexico have sun. It's not just because we have beach. Enough places have beach, Barbados, Antigua, but because of our income levels, compared, for example, to the same tourism center in the Bahamas, their minimum wage is nearly 4 times our minimum wage. So therefore, if we say that 40% or 30% of our employed adult is going to be in tourism, then there must be some policies like pension, and there must be some policies like healthcare, and there must be some policies like extending it from being a low season, high season industry. We have to put in efforts like um, music festivals so that the hotel don't full 3 months, April 15th, going back to November 15th, that's on like 5 months. I'm basically empty the other 6 or 7 months. So the point I'm trying to make is if we're going to identify earning potential for the people, we have to be more strategic in doing that. And then how are they going to own something? I think that we have tried to embarrass people to say that it was people who basically rich then own something. But if you really analyze it, people who own something normally become rich. So if it is the direction of wealth is own and then wealth. Of course, when you have wealth, you can do further ownership, but most people who have wealth had assets. They own something and then gain wealth. But the people that don't own nothing basically is handicapped. So how we are gonna make them own at least a home? And we've made proposals like the rent to buy, which some people say, oh, it's in London and other places. But more importantly, our informal society, the rent will make them prove their ability to afford a mortgage. Because how you get a mortgage in Jamaica is a pay slip. But we have so many people that don't get official pay slip and they're earning. Whether it's a promoter we keep dance or a vendor downtown or whatever in the informal. A lot of girls will just ask our boyfriend for your money, but she can afford 80 grand, but she can't get a house because she don't have a pay slip. So a rent to own when you pay rent for 2 years, which is equal to the mortgage, is better than any pay slip. Because me carry 3 month pay slip is no proof that I'll have money into the perpetuity. But you say, okay, that's proof of income. If I pay the rent of 80 grand for 2 years, then I clearly have shown that I can afford to pay the mortgage. But what I've been excited by and I've been working on more recently is the split mortgage or the generational mortgage, which means that you pay for half the house as a mortgage. A pension fund or whatever owns the other half. And in 30 years, your child can then come and buy the second half of the house. So a house for 30 million. You going to take a loan for 15 million. The pension fund holds the other half in their ownership. And then in 30 years, when the house values 100 million, the pension fund then says, okay, buy this other half from me for 50 million. That increase in capital gains is what the pension fund needs. But you would have been able to live in a house valued 30 million and pay a mortgage on 15. And so working out the mathematics on that. So we have to try get these. And I mean, when a person tries to be creative, they'll be wrong very often. And that's something we have to accept. In Jamaica, it's anti-wrong. If you're wrong one time, you eat that. You know what I mean? But if you're the man will invent the light bulb, I'm sure him to try invent enough more things will never work out until he reach light bulb. You know what I mean? But we have to try to find these ways so that our people can have education, can have income earning opportunities, can have reliable parenting, and then can become generally independent within our society. So we can move to the next phase of interdependence between them.
Okay, thank you. Silvanus, I'm going to go to Silvanus and then to Beverly, right?
Yeah, thanks, Leo. Senator Crawford, Leo mentioned earlier in his opening remarks how great a speaker you are. And I had the opportunity to experience that firsthand when you were the keynote speaker at the Jamaican Canadian Association Gala a couple years ago. So thanks for accepting our invitation to that.
That was August. But they call in August, I don't
know. Of course. You know, it was okay. You know, we kind of kept it, you know, mid-August instead of, you know, early September, just because you were coming. All right. Okay, so Senator, you studied tourism in school and you're currently in agriculture. You even, you know, provide items to the hotel industry. So what are your thoughts about the food options in the all-inclusive hotels in Jamaica? You know, where you have to struggle to find a Jamaican option, you know, on the buffet line. What are your thoughts about
that? Mixed thoughts. And again, thank you for the opportunity to come up here. Up in Toronto, I really had fun. I really enjoyed myself. I have mixed thoughts. This is why. We have an industry that is outward directed, meaning the majority of our tourists are foreigners. This is not the same for every single country, because a tourist is not a person that visits another country. A tourist is a person that moves, what I'm saying, 200 kilometers from their home destination. So therefore, you can be a domestic tourist. For example, in America, some people from go down to Florida and they're counted as a tourist if they come from Oregon or wherever. So the size of the country has now caused for most of our, and the income caused for most of our tourists to be outward. Meaning we call them bird tourists that fly south for winter. The average research in tourism suggests that a tourist wants to try new food, but not to totally consume it. So if you come into Jamaica for 5 days, which is the average 5 to 7 days, you might try a Jamaican breakfast one day. You might try jerk chicken twice, or you might try some curry chicken. But you generally want what you usually eat. You want your waffles, you want your omelets, etc. So by extension, they have to provide. However, because we have failed to establish a cuisine, which is different from food, right? We have Jamaican food, but we have not established a Jamaican cuisine, which would include how you prepare, how you present, how do you present that thing that I love, stew peas. Can't be just some rice with some stew peas thrown on the plate. You're gonna make it into a volcano, and when you cut with the rice, the stew peas are leak out, and all them things you have to work out, right? So because we have not created a cuisine and promoted a cuisine, like if you go Italy, you don't want Italian food, you have to definitely try it 2-3 times. You go France, you don't want French food. Those cuisines have been established and promoted by their governments. Mexico is now coming up in that as well. Mexican food. If you think back to 15, 20 years ago, Mexican food was not as established in the minds of people as were Chinese, Italian, French food. And if you look at Spanish, they are not established in the minds of people. Spanish food is not established in the minds of people. It takes effort to do that. Same with British food. British cuisine is not established in the minds of people. When I go to England, I don't necessarily want to know fish and whatever that they have, right? So we have not taken steps to establish a cuisine. And secondly, we have not made rules to have a Jamaican restaurant. So you have a hotel in Jamaica with 6 restaurants or 5 restaurants, of which none is Jamaican. You have a Jamaican night. Now, if you are established, listen, once you have more than 2 restaurants, one must be a Jamaican restaurant. Then that avenue for exposure would be dramatically expanded than just the Jamaican night, because a man could have choose on any given night. If him love it, him go every night. If him don't love it, him go twice. But almost 20% of the hotel could choose, like how we choose to go to Japanese restaurant where they normally have, or French restaurant that they normally have, to consume. Now, if we don't establish a cuisine, we're doing agriculture a disservice, because how can a hotel consume Jamaican agriculture when they're not cooking Jamaican things? So yeah, they buy egg from me because they cook egg, but them not buy breadfruit from nobody because breadfruit is not going to be a part of the norm, and them not gonna buy saltfish or ackee because it's not a part of the norm. Now, the base thing is that we need to establish a cuisine. But I understand why a hotel, first of all, will have foreign chef, but also because they have foreign demand. And if you look on when you go foreign, you don't necessarily immerse yourself into the other foreign country food, right? You try it, but you'd prefer to have things. In fact, you almost want chicken every time. I go to Australia and them tell me about them cook kangaroo tail and alligator. I said, no man, my good man, there's some fried chicken and thing like that. You understand? So it is the human risk aversion, the average human aversion to risk, that cause him to eat mainly what him used to. And that caused for the hotels not to be able to expand their offerings to more Jamaican. And then because we not push and promote Jamaican cuisine and establish it, it make even that go even less than it could have been. So it might be 5% when it could have been 25% if we did establish a Jamaican cuisine. If you understand, I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, man. Awesome response.
All right. I have 3 more questions we'll take, and then we close it off. The first one is COVID still a thing? What are your thoughts about the current uptick in the numbers? Jamaica, what more can the government do to convince Jamaicans to get the vaccine since our vaccination rate is so low?
COVID is still a thing because we have this big surge that is happening, but it's just from a number standpoint. Jamaicans don't really business again. They have moved on from it. But I was reading something recently that said even Americans don't business. They did a poll amongst Americans. What are they most concerned of? And number 1 was Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Number one. And then inflation, then the war, and COVID was 4%.
Oh my.
So from the psyche of the people, they're no longer very concerned about it. I am concerned because, especially with our dependence on services, right? Service means people interaction. It necessitates people interaction. That going back to closing down entertainment and all of that would be negatively affected. Imagine if every school in Jamaica have 5 people out at the front gate selling, and we have almost 400 schools. So we have 2,000 people that make a living from being out at the front of the school gate to sell. So if the schools not keep those 2,000 people not earn, then the inability to learn for many Jamaicans outside of face-to-face school, I don't want none of those things to come back. So I'm concerned because I don't want the non-clinical approach that we have been taking of shut down to be reintroduced. And that could be dramatic for our economy and the society. If anybody know what COVID means for a business, I know because I sell hotels in the main. I moved from 400 cases a week to 70 cases a week when the hotels closed. Um, so even just from a personal standpoint, I am constantly worried that we are going back to those non-clinical shutdown approaches. But in the main, COVID is not on the psyche of the people. There have been some warnings from the government. To take the vaccine, I couldn't say because the majority of our influencers are anti-vaccine, so like entertainers, not our sports people, they're anti-vaccine. And I think that the government made a mistake of being the face of it because they even our research in Jamaica 3 years ago showed that politicians were the least trusted group of people in the society. Of course, I am a politician as well, and I like to feel that I'm more trusted than the others. But then, even so, um, as a group, we're the least trusted set of people. So when they became the face of it, out of political experience, I believe, and also everybody likes to be um, in charge and the front of it. But if you look at how the United States have done it or other countries, they really have the medical people being the face of that communication. And even though some of them has been labeled politician or politically influenced. So when like Prime Minister Holness went on a tour, I don't think it benefited because then a lot of PMP they might say them not take it or most I think the last election, 38% of the society voted. So therefore, if Andrew Holness is saying it and the PMP said them not do it, that might be 15%. But then another 60 something percent might just say, yeah, I'm gonna rate you. So I didn't think that they should have been the face of it. I think that concretized in the minds of the people not to take it. So I don't know what else we could do. Um, there are real risk. There are real risks that I understand the people face. Like for example, I take the vaccine, but unless it's death, I can afford to reverse any negative that the vaccine have. So my perception of risk is different. Now you have a man who can't afford to reverse the negative. Suppose him get cataract, for example, and I don't know. I'm just throwing some things out there. Or suppose him get any injury that he gets, him can't afford to reverse it because he's so poor. So the perception of risk faced by the poor is going to be higher than the perception of risk faced by the wealthy. So I think maybe one possible thing they should do is to have a negative impact insurance that guarantees people that if you have a negative impact, you will get money for it and you will be able to reverse it. You'll get the medical care. And if you die, your child will be protected. Those things, those answers for me personally are yes. If I should die, my sisters will jump in on my family and take care of everything. If I should get sick, may have enough money to reverse it. So I may have insurance. So I think one of the reasons that the less lower income people have been acting differently from the higher income people is that their risk have not been considered. Um, and everything have risk, especially things that are new because knowledge and risk are inversely related. But it is higher for people who can't reverse it. You understand? Who can't take back them bet. And I think that the government should do an insurance, it might encourage some people to take the risk.
All right. That's a great answer, and to be honest with you, I personally never thought about the politicians standing in the front line would have impacted it, and it makes a lot of sense. So thanks for that explanation there. I want to go to Dr. Sherian Demetrius. Somebody tell me that she have her hand up for a long time and them cuss me off.
Yes, and I pull it down because that's taking longer. But Senator, I have a question for you, and it relates to education because that is of importance to me as an individual, and because I have a sister who works in the system in Jamaica. In terms of importance, where does education lie? And I asked you that question because I was in the island a couple weeks ago, and one of my visits in a classroom, I saw a classroom that was packed, no air conditioned, the windows are still open. And as I look at it and reflected on my own life as a student, there's little or no change in terms of what's being presented in the classroom space, furnishing, and so forth. Also,
Sorry.
there's this whole, when the COVID started, there was a lot of people who were literally dumping, bringing resources in terms of technology into the island. And now that the kids are back in school, I don't think that the usage of those tools that were brought in is being utilized in the classroom. And so my question surrounds around how important is education, what is being done to improve situation in there, and considering the human factor, the teachers and the students. What are the plans? So which way do you think the government needs to move now in terms of ensuring that resources are being used and that the people are being taken care of? The teachers and students.
Thank you. Where education lies, education lies very low on the totem pole in Jamaica, because one, the people don't want it, and two, the government don't want it. So if the people nor the government don't want it, it's gonna lie very low. It have to be very low when you have, in our history, an accumulated percentage of our society that have tertiary exposure is 12%. Tertiary exposure of our entire society. Would have been very effective if we wanted 80 and they are 12, very ineffective. So I think that we wanted maybe 15, but we never want 80. You understand? I remember when I was MP, there was a demonstration against education. The people demonstrated to say picnic can't vote and education can't. I never forget it. But yeah, it's low because we were never in need of a highly educated population. Historically, we were in need of a non-violent but uninformed society. How much you gotta pay a man with a degree for chop cane? How much you gotta pay a man with a degree for serve drinks? How much you gotta pay a man with a degree for mix cement? So therefore, those caliber of persons weren't needed for the workforce. And so therefore our school system was set to make you literate, not quote unquote dark and fool, and therefore less likely to be violent. Now, when I look at our policies are not geared towards changing that. For example, and I hear Favor Williams recently spoke to a 7-year secondary school experience, an automatic 7-year secondary school experience. That is something that I agree with, but it can be a equal experience because there's some kids that come into secondary school and they can't read. They must go into a remedial 7th grade. Then there are others that come in doing well, go to Calabar, go to KC, but teenage years, them get led astray, and by 10th grade, them not performing to the levels that them used to do. They should repeat 10th grade so that we can intervene from a psychological standpoint. And then there's some who speech who want to go to sixth form and can do them thing. But you can't have a child who can't read going to Haile Selassie and doing 13 same subject as a child who is a star 91% in GSAT and going to Campion, doing the same thing. I don't think that it makes sense, but I'm not seeing that policy. I'm not seeing remuneration to get the best people to teach. And I love teaching. I've been teaching since I was 19, but I could not live the quality of life that I am living teaching in a high school. I couldn't live that.
I hear
So
you.
the vast majority of who qualify greater than who can get any is like, no, teaching is not a vocation, it's a job. Is that what you've always wanted to do? You just end up having to do it because your life can be satisfactory if you're teaching. So I don't think it's high on the totem pole. From the people's demand standpoint, which them demonstrate for road, never seen them demonstrate for school, and from the government necessity standpoint, because the more people need $5,000 is the easier it is to win the election. You don't want to go and people debate about Keynesian theory and economics and all of them things. So the less people exposed to that is a better you can just, make a dub plate and win the election. So I don't think it is high because our industries don't need it. And I don't think it is high because our people don't demand.
Thank you so much. A good question and good answer. Mine is a double barrel. One, NIDS. What happened to NIDS? How will NIDS affect the diaspora doing work in Jamaica or from here to Jamaica? Sorry. And then speaking of education, there's been a lot of talk about the JTC bill, punishment for teachers if they are not licensed or they're not fulfilling whatever the requirements are to go into prison and so forth. Give us your thoughts on the JTC bill. What are the issues there, and how does NIDS impact us doing work in the diaspora? Your thoughts about the diaspora overall doing work in Jamaica?
Okay. All right. Needs, in my opinion, is a good thing. In what it could achieve and what it stands for, right? Where I had a problem with needs was the mandatory portion of it, where it was saying that if you didn't get the needs, you basically would be punished for certain things in certain ways. So I feel that the ability to identify your people is a good thing. I think that, however, you should seek to do that through the carrot more than the stick, to say there are benefits to coming on board, and with these benefits, people should want to come on board. And as you add more benefits, more people will come on board. So I was not in support of the mandatory. That has been removed because the court found that it was unconstitutional. And so that has been removed from the bill. To that extent, all things held constant, I think I will support whatever comes, unless something else, which I find to be egregious, is in it. There is no real quote unquote permanent negative for the diaspora, because there will be a grandfather period of using other forms of identification. There will be an understanding of persons not residing in our society, but still you might need the two or three um, types of identification as versus only the needs if you had the needs. And I'm sure there will be an opportunity. Floyd Green and I are good friends, went to school together. I'm sure he has considered, and the next opportunity I will make sure him consider it, that there must be an avenue to apply from overseas, because we have almost equal amounts of people living overseas that living in the country. So I don't see a permanent negative to the diaspora. There might be temporary inconvenience, but I don't see a permanent negative to the diaspora based on needs. And they have not suggested that in the short run they're going needs or nothing. So yeah, needs will make you don't need two, but if you have your driver's license or your passport, you can still go to the bank, etc. That's my understanding of their proposal. So yeah, the diaspora, the importance of the diaspora has been trumpeted over and over and over. And it has been underappreciated, even though it has been trumpeted. So you say that the diaspora is great, and you still don't even realize that they're greater than what you think. I'll give you something that a lot of people don't know or might not know. Sometimes I make these assumptions. But the majority of tourists to a country mainly comes from where they have high diaspora concentrations. So for example, most tourists to Jamaica come from the tri-state, New York, etc., and then Florida. But we don't get a lot of tourists from Wisconsin. We don't get a lot of tourists from Ohio. We don't get a lot of tourists from Michigan. Now, why is that so? Because those places are cold too. So why is it that we get mainly people from New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Florida, where we have high diaspora concentration? It is my hypothesis that the diaspora creates a desire, a demand within these people having interface with the diaspora on their day-to-day at their jobs, at their this, that they want to come and say, oh, I want to go to Jamaica, I want to see it. So we have not use the diaspora satisfactorily within the tourism industry, because I have felt that we should be encouraging the diaspora to go into we call that again travel agencies, because the travel agent get 15 to 20% as a commission. Who can sell Jamaica better than a Jamaican? So we have so many Jamaicans in Canada. We have so many Jamaicans in the States, in England, and the tourist board has not made sufficient steps to encourage and facilitate Jamaicans going into travel agency business. Now that has two benefits. One, you can tell them more things to do, right? So when a man come and say, "Oh, I'm going to Sandals," you can tell him, "So make sure you go do this too and do that too." You can sell 100 tours. But two, that 10% or 20% that is not going to come to Jamaica because of the $100 just for mathematics, $20 stays with the travel agent. If it stays with a Jamaican travel agent, some are going to come in a remittances, and some are coming in gifts, and some are coming in buying bed and send down and all of that. So it benefits the economy. So I think that we could benefit the diaspora through giving them this opportunity, and benefit from the diaspora through the opportunities that they have created. So yeah, in the mean, I know that they're working on a diaspora policy. A lot of people who say Jamaicans are great, they have never met more than 5 Jamaicans. So having met those 5 Jamaicans, them create in their mind what we are and they treat us better because of that 5. And by extension, you have to be grateful for that 5, for creating a good example or a good image in the minds of the other people that interface and meet with us. And then from the diaspora standpoint, I really feel that we should be doing more retirement villages in Jamaica, so that the diaspora, one, can come down and feel comfortable. I know a lot of you afraid now with security, and numbers reduce that security fear. But I think that the retirement villages would encourage some who have finished their sojourn and have them pension and thing to come back a little bit earlier, feel safe, to feel a part of a community, and then to employ people to do housing assistance and gardening and all of that for them. So I don't know, I have not seen the policy, but I feel that we could benefit the diaspora more, and we could benefit more from the diaspora. But I think the general society accepts that important. I don't know if how many people know that when we had the fallout in tourism, we never had a similar fallout in foreign exchange earnings, but we have a dramatic increase in remittance. So the diaspora jump in and save the Jamaican dollar, not intentionally. If they say, "Oh, we have saved the Jamaican dollar," but I'm sure like more people start calling and say, "Yo, nothing now going on, bro." When you get the little check from Trudeau, and you get a little check from Donald Trump and from Joe Biden, one little piece of it start to come down. And so there was a dramatic increase in remittances that basically subsidized the fallout in foreign exchange from the hotels.
Thank you. And then the last thing was the JTC bill.
Yeah, well, that is creating a lot of things, but that is how proposals should work. I think that the government is correct in how they have put forward the proposal. We have an idea, We're coming to you, we're going to have a discussion about it, and then we'll come back to you and say what we're proposing. So I am not upset with what is in it because what is in it is being discussed. So I don't agree with some of what is in it, but if they carried it as a bill to be made into law, may that demonstrate. But they have not carried it as a bill to be made into law. They have carried it as a proposed bill to sit before a committee. And that is the right way to have done it. And the committee is identifying some of the possible flaws in it, one of which is the demand for degree has not been the focus of the Jamaican education system, partially because some of the colleges are recent degree offerers. They weren't initial degree offerers, partially because people with degree think teaching can't afford them and the schools can't find people with degree, partially because there are some areas of skills that never had teacher training, but they had the skills. And so that was not a part of it. If I was in charge of the world, then everybody who go to college should have to learn how to teach because the brightest in the society should be teaching. If I even one-on-one, if I even not them company at them workplace, they should be teaching. So therefore, we have not equipped all our people to teach. And so, because to have a teaching diploma is also a part of this whole degree push that they're putting. A trained teacher must have a teaching diploma. So you have people who have studied actuarial science and a teach maths, but him do have a teaching diploma. Or as my mom did do food scientists and go teach home economics, but she never had a teaching diploma. So they say about 2,000 people would have lost that. In my opinion, it is reasonable to say that the teacher should be of the highest qualification that they can attain. But if you're going to grandfather it in, I think that you'd have to pay for those people who are currently employed and not at the level to attain the level. I don't think that that could now be the cost to the individual um, to do that. And then we have to say, how are we going to do it in the short term? Because I don't think a university can take on 2,000 people a year. So there are some things to think of, but I am appreciative that they carried it as a proposal as versus what they did with needs and just carried it as a bill to be implemented. And we have to go court and all of that. Once it's a proposal, fine, I will make my contributions to the necessary considerers of the proposal. So I am not perturbed by what was in it because what was in it is for discussion.
Wow! Oh, wow! 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 That that's a mouthful. I'm telling you. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm gonna ask. Do you have any questions for us, Senator?
Just one. What do you think we could be doing to prioritize, or what we should be prioritizing from the diaspora standpoint? And what recommendations from what you have seen all over the world you think is the one thing I should be lobbying for in the Senate to change in our society?
Um, it's a good question. Of all the years that I've been here, most Jamaicans have focused on not Jamaica. Jamaicans in Jamaica have focused on remittances and how important the diaspora is via remittances. One of the things that we've come up with, because a lot of people left Jamaica in the past 40 years, and they've come, like many of us here, have come to America, and they've bettered themselves. They've advanced their skills, they've advanced their education. There's a high level of distrust from the diaspora in terms of finances, and distrust in the crime environment. So those are the two areas where heavy distrust are, right? Crime and money. So many persons just get up and say, "Boy, we want to do a crowdfunding," and they're going to throw it out into the diaspora. Persons in the diaspora push back. They become uncomfortable about even giving a penny because, one, there are so many things going on. Two, we don't know where this is coming from, and where we don't know where the funding is going to go. So what we've been able to do, Senator, is we took those expertise that have, yes, Noel, I'll get you in a minute. We took those expertise where people have left the country and are here and are doing very well, and we are building capacity, right? We're building capacity in terms of creating professional development, uh, um, uh, uh, pr- um, best practice opportunities. But I think there has there we most people that I've talked to want a little bit more, little training to be able to get the government's okay for us to spend a little bit more time with nurses, a little bit more time with teachers, a little bit more time on with customer service, and the biggest problem is getting through everyone that I talk to. I mean, I probably don't have as much problems as other people. I've been in this space for a long time, but most persons are having trouble getting through to the right people to get the right things done, and so they want to help. They want to be able to give some of the training that they have, so we can use it in Jamaica as however we want. We can transition it or convert it into whatever it is, but they are not getting through. And it's like once we leave Jamaica, everything turns off, and we're back to being separate again. The only time that we become important is if the government comes up and say, "Hey, we want this or we want that," then we are important again. And so we would like to see an easier transition into the spaces. We want to see some of our diaspora members sitting on important boards, so that you talked a little bit about getting the expertise from the diaspora into Jamaica. Sitting on boards is a great way, and the Prime Minister said, I made a suggestion, and the ambassador says, yes, it's a good one, and the Prime Minister made an announcement, and that was the end of that, right? And so we want to be able to sit and be a part of the journey from the time it starts, so that we understand what is going on and we can share our experience. The same thing that you talk about, some of us, you went to South Korea and they're walking underneath instead of above or on the street, preventing with some kind of deterrent or prevention mechanism. But the thing is, we don't get a chance to be there when it started. We don't get a chance to be there to be a part of the process. We only hear we want this or we want that whenever the time has come. I think that, and I can have another comment from anyone else who want to share their thoughts here. Anyone else? Dr. Gordon, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate the point that the senator made earlier. I know specifically for New Jersey, I don't know if it was across the United States, we were required to be highly qualified. They came up with the idea that you must be highly qualified in a specific area, whether it's math, English, science, social studies, whatever the case might be. But they didn't just throw out those who were not highly qualified. They made the provision for every educator. Some of them were in the system for 20 years, some were there for 30s. They made provisions for them, give them enough time, a specific amount of time, and say, hey, you have these number of years to complete the required courses so you can be highly qualified. Because I know that in Jamaica, you still have teachers with certificates. You still have a couple of teachers with diplomas, especially in the early childhood education field. Many of these people are vocationally trained. What we're going to do, throw them out. We have to provide an opportunity for them to become highly qualified. So I want to commend you in making that point. I think it's a prudent thing to do.
Thank you, and I would love if you could direct me to where I could find how they approach that. I would love to look at what was their best practice.
Okay, I will. I promise you, I'll get some information and pass it on to Leah so he can give it to you. Thank you.
Someone named Nurse Ambitious McKay says, I think the government should go to all job sites and evaluate the workload per person and pay given lots out outside for employers, paid cheap, and then send their money profit back to their country. They need to contribute to the country's, I guess, development. Not so sure if you want to come on, ambitious, okay?
There are a number of other comments as well, Mr.
I don't see. I'm not seeing them. Case
Yes,
Mr. Gillian.
Larkland.
Go ahead. He had a comment.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We're hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Lachlan had a comment. How can they leverage our skills better?
Right.
Yes, I think I was just saying that you need to leverage the skills of the diaspora better. I think that's probably one area that you should look at, how to get us involved in developing Jamaica.
I'm thinking about what you have just said about that skills and what you have said, Chief, just a minute ago. And I believe that maybe the diaspora should converse with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, because one of the necessary things to be on the stock exchange is to have a board. So even from the private sector standpoint, if persons willing to serve on boards, private sector boards, would have had a list and their credentials, because benefiting the society is not only through government. If like I'm making a board now for my company to be listed in April, if I could go on a list to say, you know what, I would like to get some external experience, and I will go to this list and say, oh, this person is in logistics, or this person is whatever. I'll invite them to join my board. That conversation as to under what circumstance they join the board is between you and that individual, but it could extend the influence of the diaspora to the private sector as well as just and not just the public sector. I'm just thinking about it. It might not be sensible when I think about it a little bit more, but I believe that is another way that we could benefit from the experience, expertise, and skills if the stock exchange, for which many new small companies are now going on, could have a list of persons willing to serve on private sector boards. But I'll think about it some more, and if you have any input, I would appreciate.
Anyone else?
Just one thing here, Leo. I know it's about 15, maybe 20 years ago, the College of Agriculture, Science and Education recognized that the lecturers were not really qualified to teach. And they implemented a program where every one of their lecturers had to go back to school to be taught the skills so that they could disseminate the material to the students there. So I don't think we need, well, at least the example is there so far where we see the government had required certain things. So that example is there right now that we can use.
Good point. Thank you so much. Anyone else has a question that they want to share, or any thoughts that they want to share with the senator that he can take back to Jamaica? I do too, Vivian. I like the idea of the private board. I really do. Something to think about. We never really thought about that. Most of us Jamaicans and most Jamaicans at home depend on the government for guidance, and so we automatically move in that direction. And so this is a fresh space that we can think about private boards. So I'm willing to listen there too, Senator, and see how we can get that going too. See how it's possible. All right, I think that's it. I thank you so much. Let me have Sherian, Dr. Demetrius.
So Senator Crawford, boy, we are glad that you're a chatterbox. You've really done a good job tonight. So on behalf of our fearless leader, Mr. Leo Gillen, and fellow members of the Jamaica Diaspora leadership team and membership in general, We want to thank you for having this eye-opening, thought-provoking dialogue. I want to say to you that your response to me about education made me think a lot. And I'm sure that many people who belong to the education task force also had these thoughts going through. But it's just that there's this shift, this change that has taken place that we have not caught up with. And I can tell you that the whole change of idea of making people go back to school and developing those skills is important. And there's very systems that we have had in the school district across the United States, which can be duplicated, which can be looked at and see, some great points that we can use to build support for those educators in Jamaica. You have left us with much to think about. Yes, we have identified those tiny steps that have been made in addressing the needs in Jamaica, both from looking at agriculture, how the industry of tourism can be improved. And we just thank you for that again. As a organization, we commit ourselves to support the growth again of Jamaica, to share our knowledge as we build a stronger people, a stronger nation. People believe in change and people work towards change, because this is Jamaica, the land we love. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for having me. It was excellent, and I enjoyed the opportunity to talk a lot. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'll see you in a couple of days. I'm coming down there. I need to see the farm, sir.
You're coming by the farm, right?
Yes, I need to come to the farm.
But you have to catch a goat, you can't come without catching a goat.
All right.
The goat.
I promise I'll do that. All right. Take care.
All right, guys, be safe and take care, right?
All right, respect. Take care. Oh my God, I found that so exciting. He's not just a talker. He talks with so much fresh
Passion.
ideas. Yeah, and passion. Really feels good. So I am glad that we got him. I don't want to. Anybody wants to share anything now before we leave, because I don't want to keep you much longer. It's 8:43 right now, almost 2 hours. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I will have somebody else here in the next 2 weeks. I know that we are kind of on a little down low a little bit in terms of our activities, but it's okay, because as long as we're learning, as long as we're getting this kind of information, this kind of feeding to us, it's important for us to help us to form our plans and our activities forward.
Can I say a quick thank you, sir?
Yeah, man.
I just want to say thank you to the individuals who helped with the PDI last week, the presenters.
Okay.
We had 16 presenters. I know Melanie presented twice, but you all did an excellent job. I was able to see most of the courses. I got somebody from Lockland, Sylvester also. There was somebody from the Early Childhood Commission and so forth. So thank you all for a job well done.
Thank you too. Thanks for coordinating that. Really great. Thank you so much. Guys, have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye now. Excellent.